All right, according to this, we should be live. What's up, Command Bunker? I will wait for a sound check from the audience before we begin today. And so, how's everybody doing today? I see we got one guy in, so we'll just wait for a second on that sound check. So, I wanted to start with the movement phase from the Old World Almanac and everything like that. And all right, I've gotten the go ahead. Things sound good. And so all the units in the game can adopt formations, close order, or which is just 5 guys wide, skirmish, 1 inch apart, lance formation, open order, which is similar to close order, and it's not quite, what do you call it? Not quite close order, you know. So just what do those words kind of mean to me right now? I need to actually go and pull up the what do you call it here? Old World Almanac. There it is. Should have been more prepared. I should have pulled up the almanac and everything. Be looking at this so you can see the formations for yourself. You know, just, you got open order, close order. They're the same thing. Then you've got skirmish. And then you've got the lance formation. And it's good to see the old pyramid come back into the fray here and everything like that. I mean, I can't wait to make the movement trace for those. Again, I really don't know how I'm going to base the army. I don't know if I'm going to use the newer bases. I really hope that some 3D printers solve my problems and they make shoes for all the bases and everything like that. Instead of just having to buy a bunch of very specific, what do you call it, movement trays that have to be printed ad nauseum. So there's that. So one of the things that I read here, just coming down here, I took some notes. You've got close order arranged in base-to-base contact. They fight as a single entity, wheeling, charging, exposing flanks and rears. They always have as complete ranks as possible, and they give you a greater advantage in CQC. Then if you need extra movement, you can adopt marching column, a formation that is deeper than it is wide. Now, this is what I talked about in the last Holy Divers show, and I should totally I'll pin the comment to the last Holy Divers show in the comment section after the stream and everything. Okay, when they talk about marching columns, so in Hail Caesar, you're allowed to move regardless of whether or not you failed orders in initiative. So it's like, oh, my guys are in column, they can still move 6 inches to maybe bring these guys into command range of my general. So when they mention the use of column, you know, I again, what I said in the Holy Diver show is that I don't want it to be a mix match, a mesh up of other games that I've already played. And I think this is one problem that a lot of the other commentators get wrong, is that they haven't played any other games. You know, Discourse Miniatures has never played Hail Caesar. I don't know if Baxil has played Hail Caesar. And then I don't know if the two of them, and I'm not I'm going to keep this as clean as possible. I'm not going to sling mud in this. I'm only going to sling mud where appropriate. And then again, I don't know if any of them have adopted any other games or not. You know, and so they, you know, but for me, this is kind of like, you know, if I were Rick Priestley, I'd kind of lawyer up a little bit, you know, because I didn't want the game to be somewhat of a copy of Kings of War, somewhat of a copy of Hail Caesar, games that I've already played that are already good standalone games, you know. I mean, you could pretty much adopt any miniatures you want and play Hail Caesar with them, and, you know, make your own special rule, and then give the special rules in the rule book to those units where appropriate. So this will allow you to move triple your distance, and that's what marching column does. And marching just always allows you to move, and in Hail Caesar, you can already move 3 moves if that's ordered. So infantry moves 6 inches. You can move a total of up to 18 inches with a single infantry unit. I think the max is like light cavalry can move up to 27 inches, which is remarkably fast. It could get to where it needs to be with a big 27-inch movement, provided you don't have like a gigantic 12-foot long table, just, 2 tables spread out. You can get to where you need to move. Okay. 3, skirmishers, they are more maneuverable and everything like that. They're just got to be 1 inch apart. Is it showing a picture of that, or did I already skip over that? Oh, we go back up to skirmishers. They already have the hit and run thing. That's a Hail Caesar thing. Not to mention they have the harassing of flanks, and that's the role that skirmishers fall into. And then you have open order. And this kind of, from what my first impression is, it kind of reminds me of the warband in Hail Caesar itself. So you have guys that are ranked up for combat, but they're not really in combat, but they're more agile and they're able to get through pieces of tough terrain a little bit easier and everything like that. Faster, more agile, better able to handle terrain, So then you start the movement phase itself, and this is where you would declare charges. Nominate an enemy who's going to charge, and then the enemy that you're going to charge, and then it's the only way to get into CQC. That's how it is for almost every single major war game. There is a sweep in advance that will bring you into close combat in a lot of these games, but that's the only way, is you have to declare a charge. All right. Now you get your charge reactions, of course. You get your hold, your stand and shoot, and your flee. You're gonna unleash arrows or use your Empire handgunners to fend off the Bretonnian knights that might be charging you. Excuse me. And then now on page 62, I'm just drawing similarities. Are they borrowing or are they copying? And I don't think that anybody out there who's making these types of videos is asking this question. Now, I've been around a long time. I've played a lot of other games. My channel is actually way more known for Hail Caesar and Kings of War than it is related to anything Games Workshop. Let's just face it. I'm not a 40K content creator. I don't have that kind of time. I've still got a double header I've got to edit, and it's a slow going process. And this is about the closest we're going to get to a Holy Divers show in the month of November before December, where I absolutely have to come up with some kind of year ender before it's too late and everything. And we're already coming into crunch time, and we're almost getting to Thanksgiving and Christmas. We're pretty much at the precipice of the end here for the year. Sorry, if I appear cold, it's because I am. I have to, I bought a thermostat, and I have to replace the thermostat in my house. And so if I want the thermos to kick on, I have to go up there and tap it with a hammer. So I've got Orc technology working for me in that regard. So they offer on page 62, Hail Caesar rulebook, the countercharge. And this is something for chariots and cavalry. Now, cavalry is really the name of the game in Hail Caesar. If you can use your cavalry well, you are probably going to win if the dice gods don't betray you. Getting on those flanks or getting that critical charge on an infantry unit is actually pretty huge in that game. So, what does it say here on the countercharge? Some more alert units may be able to countercharge. And that's just, I don't know if that's kind of just plagiarism or if they already had that in other versions of the game, because I don't know anything about the first, second, and third edition. Hell, I don't even know anything about the fourth edition. My editions literally within my lifespan are 5, 6, 7, and 8. So I don't know if that's coming back from other games or if that's something that they borrowed from War Master, the countercharge element. Now, the brutal thing here that I kind of don't like about the movement phase, the charge moves, is you roll you roll 2d6 and you pick the highest dice that was rolled, and then you add that to your movement. So it looks like it says that a unit of skeleton warriors will have a charge range of 5 to 10 inches, which means that you've basically either start with a movement of 5 inches, which is good because one thing I really liked about Kings of War is that human infantry, undead infantry, everything started at 5 unless you were a dwarf, and then it went to a 4 because nothing should really ever move 3 inches unless it's like a compulsory fanatic or spawn. Oh, look, I rolled 3d6 and rolled 3 ones. My spawn moves 3 inches and does nothing. Oh, it's coming though. You better watch out for it, So that makes not being able to add 2d6 to your charge range, kind of brutal there. And then you have the Swift Strides special rule. Now, this adds an additional d6, which will make it, on average, let's see, the average dice roll, which will be a 12-inch charge for cavalry. So this will kind of be a cavalry game, just to a little bit of an extent there because of the extra dice that you get to roll. Now, I wish they would go the other direction. You add both of the dice to the movement like it was in 8th edition. And I've heard a lot of complaints about how it's gonna be the same blueprint and they're gonna build it up and it's gonna suck and everything like that. And I think that's pretty brutal. You're gonna have a lot of failed charges because what follows with that is if you fail your charge, you move the full distance. So let's say you get a 2, you add 2 to your move distance, so you're moving a grand total of 7 inches right towards what charge do. And that's a 6th edition 6th and 7th edition mechanic that I actually really liked. Oh, you failed your charge. Now your dick is out there hanging in the wind and you're right for a double charge or maybe even a flank charge because you overextended your lines. And that's something you kind of got to watch out there for too, So, let's see, it goes down here. If you whiff, it looks like you're going to get free movement once you make base contact. You'll be allowed to wheel, or if you can't wheel because of something, but you made the charge, they'll have to wheel to you. So you'll get that free 90-degree turn into the. That's very standard across the board for a lot of war games, So they have done that. So I've already talked about what happens if you whiff. Now, the third step is the compulsory movement phase. This is where the Night Goblin Fanatics will move about, and this is also where your Chaos Spawns or your Trolls will move about. So if your Trolls fail Stupidity, Trolls, I think it's they just move. I think it's 8th edition. They just move 3 inches forward, and that's it. They move through, or it's half their movement. So it's either 3 inches or 4 inches. Yeah, Trolls are a 6, so it would be 3 inches forward, and that's the end of their turn, and they don't really do anything, which is why you always have to keep Trolls next to your general, next to your battle standard bearer. So it's like one strategy that I always used in fantasy with my Trolls was Gorbad Ironclaw. If I had Gorbad Ironclaw and his unit of cavalry, I had the Trolls backing that unit up always. The Trolls were always like a counterpunch, or it's like, okay, I'm going to double charge you with my cavalry and my Trolls, which are 2 heavy-hitting units. The Trolls are just there to provide bulk and a bulk of attacks at strength 5. I don't really, even better, if I vomit on you, I automatically hit you, and if I roll any 3s, all those Chaos Knights that I vomited on just die unless they have a 6+ ward save. So I will take that. That's a lot easier, or if I have to roll a 4 because you're Nurgle or something like that, So you fail your stupidity test, you just move, and then you have your remaining moves, which are people who didn't declare charges. I didn't do a good job of clearing my throat this morning at all. And then you have the wheeling maneuver and everything, and it's just unit moves forward, pivoting around its front corners. So pretty self-explanatory, pretty old. Again, I am kind of happy to see that, this is a positive in its favor is, you need to have an uncomplicated movement phase. One of the things that hurt 6th edition fantasy was I think that it did have a very rigid movement system compared to 8th edition, where 8th edition was more open. It was a lot more lax, and it wasn't as it just wasn't as rigid. It was more liberated. The movement phase for 8th edition was way more liberated. You might as well have called your fast cavalry skirmishers, but on horseback or something like that, So, and then you can, of course, move backwards and sideways, which was something you couldn't do, You'd have to reform. And so, that's something that's come into a lot of games. both Kings of War, Conquest, Hail Caesar. The good thing about Hail Caesar, if you move backwards or sideways, you just adopt one movement, and that's 6 inches. So it's like, oh, I'm going to shuffle my entire division over here. I roll for the 4 units, and I move each unit 6 inches to the left, 6 inches to the right, or I can move them backwards 6 inches. And so there's that. And then, you know, just I wanted to watch some of these videos just of the, you know, some of these naysayers and everything. And let's see here. They're all over here. And these guys, let's see. I'm not going to start with them. Incoming disaster. All right, now let me see here. Okay, I fixed the Discourse Miniatures channel. We don't have to we'll just we'll click over here. Hold on, I fixed it. Hold on, I fixed it. Before I start anything, I'm just going to fix the channel real fast. We'll make Akka just a little bit bigger. There we go. And that way you don't have to look at what I'm looking at. You know, I fixed it. We can just look at Akka, and then we can hit the play button. But before we do that, I think we'll get into the chats real quick. Here we go. Oh, gotta click it. I have to use 2 browsers now. Thank you. 2 browsers now. How's everybody doing? We got Coronite Care Bear. We got CJ Wargaming. Fox is even here. Nicholas, how are you doing? The melon. Gratuitous melons. I'm having a bad hair day, so you guys have got to have something to look at. I did not have time to shine myself up. I've kind of been writing all morning, and just kind of going off script is like the hardest thing that I have to do, because, you know, when I do make a show or I do a hobby ramble, it's usually well scripted, and so I had to kind of focus on what I was going to say, and that did take up a lot of my time. Set up the stream, set up the thumbnail, find some of the articles, find some of the parts of the articles that I wanted to talk about, or videos that I wanted to talk about, and everything. Command Bunker, Harrison, how are you doing? And then Wraith is here. Good evening, everyone. What time zone are you in? It's always tonight wherever you are. You must be in Europe. Yeah, that's what okay, so you make a good point, Karen, Coronite. You have to have the base sizes. And so, like, I hope the 3D printers of the world out there can unite and make a shoe for the standard 25mm base and for the standard 20mm base, not to mention the cavalry base. You just plug your base into the shoe, you're good to go. All you have to do is spray paint the shoe brown and then throw it into a movement tray, and then you can have one set of movement trays for Old World, and then another set of movement trays for 8th edition. And that's kind of the route that I want to do. Hello, Hungar. How you doing, buddy? We're about to get into the meat and potatoes in this. I was just taking comments from the audience, so, you know. So my initial take on... Oh, Scotland. All right. Hell yeah. I got a Scotsman. Well, you know that accent that you think you can do, but you really can't, you know. You got to give it to, I think it's Dan Castaneda, or it might be Hank Azaria. I think it's Dan Castaneda who does Groundskeeper Willie. When he keeps his mouth really small whenever he does Groundskeeper Willie. It's not, even though he sounds very loud, that he keeps it very small. And he's like, Groundskeeper Wheelie is very small. It's in there, you know. And you got 7:15 UK timeline. All right, good enough. Yeah, and the new re-release of the Bretonian models is something that's really big for me. It really hits me where I live and everything. And so, you know, we'll go back over here. But at least I fixed it. I fixed the channel, everybody, so we don't have to look at it directly like I do.
For example, still hold up. The Knights of the Realm still look fantastic. Both of these are going to be available to buy. I love them. I think they're filled with character. The Old Men-at-Arms and the Peasant Bowmen, though, I think are going to put off a lot of newer players. These are incredibly old school. And I love them for that. I mean, I played with these models back when they were, still relevant, and I think they look good. But stylistically, they are very different from contemporary Games Workshop models. And I've already seen a lot of people online mocking them. I've seen a lot of criticism of them, people saying they're bad, and I've seen a lot of accusations that the game is dead on arrival. And that really, really worries me, because as much as I've...
All right, that's the thing right there that I've heard a lot, not just from discourse, but from a lot of other people about this subject that the game may be dead on arrival. Now, they always talk about Horus Heresy being dead on arrival and everything like that. Like, it was really popular, and then the game just sort of died out. Now, I can tell you honestly, me and my group have shifted from playing Warhammer 40K to playing Infinity. I don't play Infinity personally. I let that be my group's break away from me and my BS. Let me put Akka back here. I guess it doesn't really matter where she is, but we're going to use her to block the face of Discourse Miniatures. All right. Yeah, you don't want to know what the hell that is. That's why we got Akka blocking it. Nobody wants to know what that is. I'm going to try to keep this very clean because I want the message that I'm trying to get out. I want it to get out there, and, I want this video to be... I don't want it to be demoted in the algorithms and everything. So, first and foremost, the game dead upon arrival is horse crap. It doesn't matter if the game is dead on arrival. All right? Number one, Games Workshop is a company, and they exist to turn a profit. Now, what they want to do is, if the sales from Warhammer the Old World carry the rest of the year, the game's done its job, it's run its course, all right? If they have millions of dollars in sales front-loaded just immediately for, let's say, 2 quarters, they've done their job. There you go, it's done. They can discontinue the line after that. It's basically this is basically a money printing, an excuse for Games Workshop to print money and make some money. All right. Now I have $700 in my dresser just collecting dust right now to buy a Bretonnian army. All right. Now, even if the game sucks, I am happy to paint an army on par with what my Macedonians look like. If I have to choose one, or my Night Goblins, I'm glad I remembered them. So if I have to choose some of my best work that I still own in my collection today, because my Dark Elves are no longer with me. I don't think my Dark Elves have ever made the channel. Ever. So, I sold that, I had a moment of weakness. I sold my Dark Elves. Somebody made me a reasonable offer. It was a 2,200 point army, and somebody just on Facebook's like, I can't get your army out of my head, blah, blah, blah. And he just started throwing numbers at me, and those numbers kept increasing, and I caved at 1,800. All right. I caved at 1,800. I'm like, yeah, okay, 1,800. And you pay all the shipping. So I boxed everything up, that sort of thing, So I want to paint an army, a Bretonnian army again. All right. That's the hobby right there. They don't tell you that part on the big channels, I think. And nobody ever states that enough, that building and painting the miniatures is literally 90% of the hobby, And, even if it just sits there, I'm still very happy to just look upon my works. That's whenever I get my Night Goblins out, I'm happy. Whenever I look at my case over there, there's a cupboard over there, and I get out my Bretonnians. Sometimes I watch my own, like a sick bastard, I watch my own Bretonnian showcase video. Like a sick bastard. I know you like to look at yourself, you sick son of a bitch, diver. That's what the hobby represents to me the most, is when I look upon my works. I'm like, wow, I really like the way my Macedonians turned out. I like the way my Night Goblins look. So, I mean, there's a few things I have yet to paint for my Night Goblins. I want new Wolf Riders. So the collection can always get bigger. But the pattern that I've noticed from my gaming group is that we games like AOS, the new 40K, Kill Team, with kind of the exception of Warcry, those games all kind of suck. Mainline GW games kind of suck. Like Warhammer 40K, the new 40K was a huge wake up call for us, you know. So I've been playing 30K. I'm about to play my fourth or fifth game of that, and so I have less of a problem. And I don't want to spoil my battle reports, but I will say this. I have less of a problem losing a game of Warhammer 30K to my buddy than I did a game of 40K. All right? And the reason why is like the best way I can describe a game of 30K is like, okay, let's say even if you lose, my feeling coming away from that is that I feel like I've lost to a player, rather than a group of Obama-style executive order special rules that just sort of happen, you know. And so when I get my battle reports out on Rumble and everything, you'll kind of see that reflected in the commentary in Holy Diver's Corner, where I kind of talk about what's going on in the game. You'll see that reflected. Like my last two games against Space Marines, I literally played at my best. And then I'm an okay player, but my friends are all really good. My friends got it all of my friends that I play with, they have it dialed in, you know. They just one notch above me, not to mention my friends have the means to buy whatever the hell they want. All right? Even if they were unemployed for a couple of months, they would still have the means to do whatever they want monetarily. All right? So, rather than losing to a group of special rules that forced me to lose the game in the 11th hour when I had the game, you know, that's kind of what makes the new 40K kind of suck. You know, it was a little bit that way in 9th edition, but 9th edition was way more thought out than 10th. Whereas 10th, it really just like kind of sucks Donkey Kong Dong. Like this group of Tyranids has anti-vehicle 2+, and I'm sure there's a way to turn it up to devastating wounds, which means your vehicle doesn't get a save. You know, and then there's the spearhead detachment that the Marines got that gives them all stealth and everything. And then the fact that they've given them armor of contempt for 1 CP, and that was something that I thought would never come back into the game, but here it is rearing its ugly head with everything in the Orc army being a very low AP already. Yeah, that kind of sucks. Everything capping out at AP2 sucks. And I've already given like commentaries on how things could improve in 40K, make the Orcs and World Eaters meaner in close combat. All right, there you go. That's all I'm going to say about that. So my group went, and we're also gearing up for Necromunda, and they're playing Infinity. We're playing, or some of them they've gone back to Hordes. They've shifted away from 40K, you know, and they're having more fun now, you know. Now, this is my friend's take on this. Now, he said most of the people who are talking trash on the old world, are people, or the people who are bashing 30K are either heavily invested in other games or they're too poor to really play the full 30K game. Now, I've planned out next year $1,200 in Forge World purchases that I'm going to make for my 30K armies. You know, and most people, that's their entire gaming budget for the year. All right. Again, I'm not saying this to bash anyone's financial position. I can afford things. That's just where I'm at in life. And if you can't afford them, that's okay. But I always say to everybody that you don't have to play every single game that comes out by Games Workshop. I don't play every single war game out there. I've spent some money on Lord of the Rings SBG, and I've never touched it. I've never touched it at all. You know, I mean, it just sits there looking at me, mocking me. I see a fully painted Rohan army. I see a fully painted, Mordor army, and they're just sitting there laughing at me in their clear plastic drawer. They never move. I could sell that saying it's a brand new army if I wanted to. The only reason I don't sell it is because I like the collection of. You know, I was considering buying the new starter set with the Gothmog model and the Gondor Rangers just to paint it and throw it in the drawer underneath that. The only problem is, where would my Imperial Romans go if I don't have that drawer? And that's where I'm at, I mean, I've been collecting for 22 years almost, to not date myself. But the main problem I have with Discourse Miniatures is it's basically drama porn. About the affordability of Games Workshop product. Now, I'm going to ask the audience, and you guys, what does that mean to you? And I think this is kind of where YouTube itself is becoming very harmful to the hobby. Just with all the drama, with the drama porn, the doom and gloom, and everything like that. And then there's also the image put forth by the influencer Illuminati class out there that isn't really indicative of true to life wargaming inside of a basement, wargaming inside of a hobby store or something like that. I mean, when I was collecting clips for this rant that I wanted to make, this hobby ramble, I watched some videos, and that's what took up all the time, was just really coming to parts inside of the video that I wanted to discuss. I mean, I didn't use anything from Mini Wargaming, but Mini Wargaming, that what's his name? I think it's Rob, the guy with the black hair. He's got that 1,400. I think he's got like a 1 million point Chaos Marine Force. That's not true to life. A lot of those miniatures, during their heyday back in the early 2010s, the YouTube era when it kicked off, they had painters, they had people just donating miniatures by the bushel to those guys for a shout out, so that somebody somewhere are like, oh, I hope somebody will notice my painting business on Facebook, because that's what I want to do for a living, paint miniatures. So a lot of those miniatures, they didn't even pay for. Now, I give the two of them over at Mini Wargaming, I give them credit. Their store went bankrupt, and they somehow found enough money magically to buy a studio somewhere and still make content because of creative license taxation in Canada. I think they get, because of what they're doing specifically, they get to write off 50 cents on every Canadian dollar they spend. Don't quote me on that, but I don't know what's sustained them other than donations. And I mean, if you look at them now, their audience has really dropped off. Their average view for any video that they put out, just in the top field there, is like 9 to 20,000. All right, that doesn't pay the bills. You need to have the Houston Jones. The Houston Jones level of views to pay the bills. When you're getting 500,000 views in the first 5 days because you're doing hurtful crap to yourself. Freaking A. I ate too much breakfast too. So before I progress just a little bit too much, I'll go back to the audience here, talk to you guys for a second here, and yeah, and that's what one of my friend also mentioned that in his last text message. If the game sucks, we'll play Conquest. That's fine. We're gearing up to play Mordheim. I have the rule book right over there. I took it to work with me. God damn it. I can't stop burping. I can't drink soda water. I should have gotten the flatter bottle out of there. I got a brand new bottle. We can also play Necromunda. We can also play 30K. There's always other games that you can play. But that mainstream clique of GW games, they're starting to do the 40K stuff to Age of Sigmar, and that's what's turning off my friend about Age of Sigmar. I was never really on the Age of Sigmar bandwagon. There was a moment where I might have played with the group, but I'm happy to just let them play, and if they need an extra guy, I'll be right there. I'll be right there if they need an extra guy for something that they're planning. Anytime. Anything they need. You can always play older editions. I'd like to play a little bit of 6th edition again. Again, I would just rather play 8th because 8th is cleaner. It's more streamlined. It's just better. 8th you know, 8th edition is a 4 out of 5, whereas 6th edition is a 3 out of 5, you know. But I always said, but like I said in the last Holy Diver show, if they're going to do a new version, I think they should have taken the best that those two games represented, put them together. Look, I mean, because there are about 120-page rule sets when all is said and done. When you factor in terrain, garrisoning buildings, magic, when you factor in everything, both of those books are. So you're looking at about 240 pages. You got to find a way to condense all the best parts of those games down to about 80 pages, and then go forward from there and try that. You know. So the Hussar General. Are you going to do upsized basing? Again, that's something I'm on the fence about, the upsized bases. Now, for my newer armies, they might be upsized. I've painted up, I've actually had commissioned 30, miniatures for my Beastmen army. I had somebody paint up 33 of my Gores, and I painted 40 of my Gores. I have 70 Gores in a box in my closet that are just painted. They're not based. They're not even clear coated. They're just in a box waiting. All right. So they're all on 25mm bases though. What I mentioned before is that I'm hoping that they come out, that the 3D printers kind of come out with a shoe that you stick your guys in to make the bases appropriate. And then that way you can have one set of movement trays for older editions, one set of movement trays for Old World, the new Warhammer Fantasy. And that's what I'm hoping for. Let's see, we got Tyler. What's up, Tyler? How you doing? I appreciate all ages of gaming, old and new. So do I. Looking at some of the older books and everything, that's always a treat to see the magic that was the nostalgic magic of Games Workshop back in its heyday, which for me was 1998 circa 2008. So you got that 10-year period. Sowell comes to mind. He says, solutions only trade-off. Solutions only trade-offs. All right. I don't know what you mean by that. Please clarify, Tyler. What's up, Hungar? My thoughts on Games Workshop game is teach kids to love it young. Okay, so teach kids to love it young. You know, I mean, I don't really think that you can teach kids to love Games Workshop games young. I mean, if they come to it naturally, that's probably for the best. You know, I mean, just because of how much money the hobby has really ended up costing now. I mean, now of course you can 3D print an entire army. Celtic Miniatures comes to mind. If you want to put skeletons on the field, you know, you can 3D print a lot of things very cheap. You know, it is an illicit substance. I will agree with you there. But you know, I mean, it's like I told my nephews, you know, it's not for you. It's not for you. I'm never looking to bring young blood into the hobby. It's really something that you have to arrive at because of the financial and the monetary and time investment. That's also true, Tyler. No game can have it all. No game can have it all. I remember old Throg, the Troll King army. I had an entire troll army. I frickin' sold it from the Warriors of Chaos book. That was a really good build, even though it didn't really have any magic. I mean, you could run a Chaos Sorcerer on a... I think I ran a Chaos Sorcerer on a horse, and he had a scroll with him, just in case something was so bad. But I had like 4 units of trolls. I had the Sun Eater in that. I had Chaos Warhounds everywhere, and then Throg the Troll King was a beast. The price is what dictates the market. Now, price on the new models, price on anything doesn't really concern me that much. And again, what it means is that, you know, I mean, okay, If I'm getting 32 guys in a box, I'm expecting that box to cost north of $80. If it doesn't, they're doing you a service, because I believe it was 35 for 16 Bretonnian archers back in the day, and it was 35 for 16 Bretonnian men-at-arms. Now, it should have been 35 for 20. I don't know why they gave you 16. And that's just the numbers that they gave you, and that's what they put in the box. And then there was always the, you get 8 Knights of the Realm, which was really good because you only needed 8 Knights, and then it's like, okay, so if I wanted, back in the day, if I wanted to start a Bretonnian army, I could, what do you call it? Buy 2 boxes of Knights, buy a box of Pegasus Knights, buy a box of Archers. So that's 2, 1, 1. Okay, so that's 4 boxes of guys, and then buy a damsel and a paladin standard bearer and another paladin, and that's almost a 1,000 point army right there. That's probably that probably is, depending on how you outfit it. That's a 1,000 point army. And if you really wanted to get fancy, you made sure to buy your yeomen in the blisters. You know, and that would be a paycheck. That would be a paycheck back then. That's like half of your paycheck. I believe that'd be north of 300. Just let me do my math on that, and then I'll continue on with the subject matter at hand here. You know, I think the character blisters were north of $15 back in the day. So yeah, you're looking at about $247, especially if you buy the 10 Bretonnian yeomen and everything like that. So, but the number 2, and then the other thing that's kind of driving 40K right now, and this goes back onto the Illuminati class, kind of presenting an image of wargaming that isn't really true to life, is like the smaller 40K channels that have a bigger following than I do or something like that, and they're actually making traction, and they're the coaching channels and everything like that. I call them the tabletop simulator bros. They're always pontificating on Tabletop Simulator. What's going to happen when you run this? What's going to happen when you run that? And to an extent, that I think that's necessary, because 40K has become a game of an ever-shifting meta where you can't just have a collection. And that is a detriment to the game. If I have 5,000 points of orcs, you know, and like the problem I had when I came into the beginning of 9th edition, and why I fought it so long, is when 9th edition started, 8th edition was okay, but when 9th edition started, I didn't really have anything that was good. I mean, I had the Stompa. Oh, wow. I participated, but I was never competitive. I was never competitive until I got my wallet out and I started to just sling cash at game, you know, and that's a huge problem. If you already have, let's say, 5,000 points, maybe 8,000 points of an army, and only 10% of that army is viable in tournament play or store play, well, that's a huge thing that Games Workshop is doing to hurt the hobby themselves. There you go. I just made a little drama porn right there. They do that deliberately to keep you buying the new shit or something like that, and that's also what makes the game, the new 40K, kind of suck. Is because you don't know what they're going to FAQ next, and and they're coming out with new books. It's going to be Necrons and AdMech, and they haven't even come out with 5 books yet. I mean, and we're into like 8, maybe 9 months of the release, and they've only come out with Tyranids and Marines because the edition wasn't ready to launch. I think we've already established that. But when these books come out, or these new editions come out, and it basically relegates most of your current standing collection into irrelevance, I can see it from Discourse's perspective on that one thing. I can surrender that argument. But again, you know, I mean, you don't need to go to every single tournament, and you want to consider dialing it back to go to one tournament a year, which would be less of a financial investment, especially if you're willing to travel. There's the finances of having to travel and everything. And then it comes down to mentioning Discourse, you also have the drama porn channels, i.e. the butt-clapping captain of the Bussy Patrol. Don't buy it. Don't buy it. It's not fair. It's not fair. Okay, buy it. It's okay. You're going to buy it anyway, you know? So, you know, I mean, again, this is, like I said, this is just kind of one of the themes of this video, is that this is YouTubers themselves, the bigger channels, kind of being a detriment to the hobby rather than a booster to the hobby, you know. Then you have the actual hobby channels like mine, Leon T, VK, JVC, DM James, Seventh Son, you know, just to name a few. You know, if I missed you and you want a shout out, you can certainly have a shout out. You got Hungar in there. He does a chaotic live stream, you know. Just to name a few that really just portray wargaming as it is. All right? You're sitting in a room 90% of your time painting miniatures, and you're reading rule books. I've been stepping up my rule book game. I've devoted a lot of hours over the last couple of weeks studying the 30K book, getting myself, like in a play, off script for 30K. All right? I've made 5 flushed out flashcards for Mordheim so that I can give my book back to my friend, and then maybe he can lend it to someone else. All right? Because that's how I read. I have to have the book in front of me, you know. So, there's that. And let's just kind of finish some of this up here, because I have some more commentaries to go with this, because I'm about done on talking points here. Let's just make sure that's there. Okay, we'll hit the play button and go back into this.
Loved everything shown so far. Literally, I was never going to run a Bretonnian army in the old world until this stream. I think this stream might have convinced me to buy into Bretonnia. But the game itself, the old world, it lives or dies based on whether or not it is able to appeal to the demographic of people that played the video game Total War Warhammer.
And now this is where, again, Discourse is pretty wrong. Now, they've already mentioned it's all going to hinge, the doom and gloomers, it's all going to hinge on the Total War players. First and foremost, you're never going to get that audience. Most people who play a lot of video games, that's their hobby. They're not, you know, I mean, even if you get several tens of thousands of dollars of one-time purchases from the Total War base, I'm expecting literally 1% of those people to come into Warhammer. All right? I am expecting 1% of mostly because of the monetary drain and the drain on your time. Now, if some of them are smart, they might buy a used army and participate that way. If some of them are more well-to-do, they might have something commissioned, built, and painted, you know, because you know, just because you play video games don't mean you're broke, you know. And that would be the route that I would give to the, you know, that's the route that I give to the Total War players, you know. Buy a used army, see if you like it, you know. And if you don't like it, you can smash it with a hammer on YouTube, get some drama porn going, or you can just get out of it for good, you know. And, you know, just that's, you know, getting the video gamers to come in, that's not going to happen. Like I said, you're going to get 1% of those guys. And, you know, of that 1%, half of them are going to quit because they realize that this is actual work, you know. I mean, they would rather be grinding and leveling up somewhere, you know.
Warhammer and fell in love with the Warhammer Fantasy setting. Why else does this game exist if not for the fact that Warhammer Fantasy as an IP had a massive resurgence in the 2010s because of the popularity of Total War Warhammer? And the game does not seem to be getting aimed at that demographic at all. Instead, it seems to be focused on trying to get those like me who are nostalgic for the old Warhammer Fantasy days. But I don't think that the game can survive just on nostalgia. I think we need a new generation of players to get into the game. But what have Games Workshop shown us? They've shown us some really cool plastic models, but most of the reveals have been resin miniatures, awkward, hard to work with, new players hate them, and now they're showing us old plastic sculpts that I think will put off newer people. And
all right, now on that note, this is where some of the naysayers are complaining about the new and the old mixing together. This is just autism, weaponized autism. Like, oh, it doesn't match and look as good as this new box of soldiers over here, don't want to buy the old archers and mix them with my army, then don't run the archers, you know. Again, they're not making this for new people. They're making this for people like me. People like me who've got the money and I literally have nothing better to do. All right? A lot of my viewers might have nothing better to do and they're waiting for this game to come out. And they want to put together an army, they want to paint it. And if all it does is sit there and look pretty, that, like my Macedonians, 90% of the time after the Rangers skeet and skedaddle, now they have nothing to do, you know? And they're always so putting off newer players, you know. Again, this isn't, I've already said in the last Holy Diver show that this isn't necessarily the game that you want to start out with in what do you call it, in the Warhammer universe here. You might something like Kill Team might be more your speed, because you know there are some people whose eyes cross after about, I don't know, 2 minutes of trying to assemble their first miniature. They're like, this is hard. I don't want to do this. You know, there are those people. You know, so let me get back to chat. Well, let's just wrap this one up real quick here.
Honestly, this combination feels like a death sentence to me, but this seems to be the direction they're going, and at the very least, I hope the models are cheap, because Warhammer Total War fans are not going to pay $60 for 5 models. I'm sorry, they just won't. That's far too high. I mean,
they've already proven that people will pay $84 for 1 model, so that's not too high. You know, P is for pirate, and what the ever, you'll just buy it anyway. They've already proven that, and I think that's where this. And you're not getting that audience anyway. And again, if they're giving you 32 models in a box, this is Games Workshop we're talking about. 32 models is going to cost you north of $80. Just FYI, there, it'll cost. If it doesn't cost you north of 80, it's gonna be either in the 70s, and if you're really lucky, it'll be about $65. But it's gonna be north of that marker, unless they really want the line to sell. You know, I don't see them giving you, I think it's going to be 12 Knights of the Realm in the box. It might be 12 makes a full lance. I don't see them giving you, I mean, and knowing that lance formation back in the day, those 8 knights would cost you 35. Gosh, I wonder what 12 would cost you. So that's 4. I mean, yeah, no, you're not getting 8 models for $4.38. That's not going to happen. Just rounding up, you're not getting that. That's not going to happen. It's going to be 12. It's probably going to be they're going to probably charge you $6 for each night. Let's just be real. 72 seems to be the realistic price tag on that.
the community itself kind of lost its mind whenever the DLC went above $20 recently for Total War.
Oh,
so that should
$20,
really scare
oh
off
my
Games
God.
Workshop from trying to hit those high price points. The worry is a lot of these resin models are going to be very expensive, I think, and therefore they might scare off a lot of players. That said, the old models do look like they're being sold as 32 models all bundled together, so you're going to get a lot of them, which is good because I suspect you're going to need a lot of them for the old world. And I'm hoping that they're sold at a similar price point to the Middle-earth strategy battle game units, which are the most affordable models that GW.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. SBG, I'll just go on a side note right there. It's over there sitting in my box. I have it. I don't really need to buy anything. And once you've collected SBG for about 2 years, you pretty much by and large have everything, you know, and that's kind of where wargaming ends for companies right there. When it reaches saturation and everybody has everything, all you can do is make newer, better, more dynamic hero models and hope that you sell, and then you come out with a new starter set and it hopes that you sell. It hopes that it sells, you know. This not going to happen. These are true 28s, and the people who, the people who play SBG, that's like the one game that they play. And again, the reason why I like the War of the Rings crowd is because they're the most low-profile gamers out there. You know, they're like, oh, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. Me and my friend are just going to play some SBG in the closet. Anyway, that's enough of this one. And then, you know, again, it's more drama porn. Warhammer news just got worse. Let me just move this up here a little bit. Don't want to be turned to stone by Medusa. She's waiting for you. Medusa with her eyes. If anybody knows that song, put it in the comment right now. That's a pretty good one. That's actually my favorite Joey Belladonna sing lyrics right there.
Game that we had before. Would they? Spoiler! Yes, of course they have. And it's basically a huge f***ing disaster, and I'm really worried that the old world is essentially dead on arrival as a result. Okay, so maybe I'm exaggerating a little. Games Workshop have changed some elements to the game. Instead of a game turn being structured around the old, very lame, far too slow-paced movement phase, magic phase, shooting phase, and close combat phase, like in Warhammer Fantasy Battles, PU.
Okay, first and foremost, what the hell do you know, you butt-clapping captain of the Pussy Patrol? You've clearly never played the game in your entire sad life. Now, I have it on good authority from people who live in your area, who are fans of my channel, that say that you don't even show up to events. You, might go to a store, buy a paint pot, leave, and then you're never seen again. You know, so... what could you possibly know? Now, that's the game. Movement, magic, shooting. PU, that's been the whole game for 20 years. So now they've kind of opted for a system that's like, you go, I go. You know what game that is? If it's you go, I go, that's Kings of War. I've already played that game. You know, so I've already kind of stated in the old, and I'm kind of glad that I'm being proved right here on a lot of things in that last Holy Divers show is, you know, okay, so one, it might be a different system. Hey, we'll see when Close Combat comes out whether or not you get to participate in that same Close Combat. Then it's a little bit different. Then it kind of changes the dynamic. But if you have to sit there and take all of that Close Combat and not be able to retaliate, okay, then you're just kind of playing a glorified version of Kings of War, and you might as well play the latter. All right?
The old world has the new, very different, and far superior strategy phase, movement phase, shooting phase.
How do you know it's far superior? How in the hell would you know it's far superior? You've never played it. These might not even be the full rules. This might just be drafts of the rules. Fucking stupid moron.
And close combat phase. This is obviously very different. Okay, so maybe not that different. But the phases being similar is not even really the bad part here. Instead, the real issue is that they've kept this phase thing at all. Because what that reveals is that each player will be going through a phase all at once, controlling their entire army and then passing back control to the other player.
I'm sorry, Lord Bullingdon, but you must first stand your ground and allow Mr. Linden his turn to fire.
That's right.
All right. Yes, I understand defragulate a little bit better. I wanted to get to some of your guys' Alec Luda, what's up? Hussar General, I believe, already said hi to you. Oh, what army do argument? Okay, so I'm trying. What? I don't really understand your question, Nicholas. What about argument? Reality for tabletop war games. Have you? Have you? Okay, so for argument, I just have 100 Kingdoms, and that's about it. Okay. Okay, so are you talking about, Alec, are you talking about the Facebook group on, oh. The Facebook group for the 6th edition. I know that there's a very loyal following, and they have a big Facebook group and everything for 6th edition. Yeah, that was true. For sixth edition, a lot of people were buying new armies to get better rules for themselves and everything. Vampire counts were really tough to play unless you were playing the necromancers from the back of the book, because then all of your units were discounted by like several points. Like, I mean, several points. I mean, a Black Knight would cost you 20 plus 2 for barding. You were paying 22 points for a Black Knight. A Grave Guard would cost you 10 points, which was like, literally, why didn't they just do that from the beginning? Because then the army would have been 100% competitive, because you would have been able to take enough undead to be relevant. Yeah, when they came out, okay, so Blood Knights were a seventh edition thing, and when they came out, that was $100 for 5. So they've already proven that people will pay any price. You're absolutely right, Cornite. Yeah, the same here. I don't care if the game is fun. I just want to I just want access to the old range that we all know and love. It's like comfort food. We all want that. I haven't had time to look into Warhammer Army projects as much as I'd like. I think I have one of the PDFs. You know, it's not convoluted or anything. You know, it's just kind of like all I've had to look at is like you're buying extra equipment, kind of. So you have, God, it's been so long since I've looked at it, so I can't even really make any argument for or against it. You know, it's just. I mean, I can already tell you now that I'm so busy, I wish I had an assistant here on Saturdays helping me out. Argument reality. What do you mean by that? Yeah, you had a lot of army jumping in 6th edition, but again, the hobby back then in 6th edition, I mean, that's 20 years ago. That was way cheaper. It was way cheaper. I mean, if you were a bagger at a grocery store, you could afford to play war games. End of story. You know, so there is that. If you get any more chats in here, I'll wait for them for just a second here before I move on. All right. All right, let's hurry up and finish up some of these. I fixed the channel.
Warhammer the Old World is going to use you go, I go, and that basically kills this game. No.
Hey, this is the last hoodie you're ever going to need to buy.
This is the problem with YouTube. Even when you watch the video all the way through and you refresh it, they can still seed it with ads, which is horse garbage.
Bearskin tactical hoodie.
Bearskin hoodie.
No one wants to say it, but I don't
one.
think that people who would be interested in Warhammer in 2023 want to sit for 45 minutes to an hour waiting for their opponent to take their turn before they even get to do anything. Recreating the game to reintroduce this broken turn system, this poorly paced mess, is utterly going to kill this game in infancy. Certainly, no Total War Warhammer players are going to play this game. Remember, they are the prospective diamond demographic that this game should really be flirting with. But those guys can't even sit through a 5-minute end turn screen. They will not be able to handle a single full turn sequence of this new Warhammer game.
All right, again, the Total Warhammer players, they're not coming. So what the hell do you know? They're never coming in. You're never getting that demographic. They're paying a monthly subscription, which is like pennies on the dollar compared to whatever any war gamer ever does. They're never coming in. So I don't know why they keep referring to this crowd here. Anyway, I think there's about, roughly one more minute of this dribble that we have to watch.
Yes, I get it. Warhammer Fantasy Battles used to be You Go, I Go, and Warhammer the Old World is trying to nostalgia bait all the old players of that game into the new game.
Yes,
sure,
that's
so
what they're
therefore
supposed
they
to be
didn't want
doing.
to
They
change
want to nostalgia bait people like me because I have the money, retard.
things too drastically. But there's only one problem there. The old school Warhammer Fantasy community just isn't big enough.
Oh,
I mean,
we're
the game
all
got
dying.
discontinued,
Okay,
and it was
yeah,
rumored that
that's
the
hilarious.
entire fantasy line was being outsold by the Space Marine Tactical Squad back in the 2000s. And I count myself in that community of old school fans. Well, middle school in my case. I loved Warhammer Fantasy Battles, but I'm telling you right now that if that is the only group of people that this game appeals to, then it is dead. We need young blood. And I'm not just saying that because I play vampire counts. The game would just be way better off with a more dynamic system, and this really was the time to do it. A spin-off game.
All right. The game just needs more young blood. And we've heard that argument a million times. Again, people in their 20s nowadays with inflation, they don't have the money to get into this game. All right? Let it die. Let it die for all I care. We don't even need... And you miraculously play vampire counts all of a sudden. And you're like, oh, I'll be adding Bretonia to my collection. Again, I have it on good authority. You might have a collection, but nobody's ever seen you play shit. All right? So, you know, I mean, I have enough fans in the UK that keep me abreast of what the Africans in discourse are doing. Hopefully not in the privacy of their own home. Anyway, 10 more seconds.
Made like 10 years after the previous iteration was ended, that is when you get freaky with it. Instead, they've just mostly reiterated a game that, well, that failed before. And I say mostly reiterated, though there are some changes. And the worst part about that is that all the changes that they've listed seem kinda bad. It sounds like the game is actually worse than it was before. And I'm genuinely trying to keep an open mind here, but I'm just not impressed.
Are you?
So, to give you an example, so they've rejigged all of the phases. Okay, sure, that seems to mostly be an exercise in renaming, but, you know, there are some big reveals in the article. Like, for example, they've now replaced the magic phase with the strategy phase. And I'm not against this, because the magic phase wasn't really that great in the old Warhammer Fantasy games. It was pretty boring watching your opponent fiddle around with their wizards as they tried to cast Biggest Dickus on your general, especially if you yourself didn't have a wizard to contest them with.
And so why wouldn't you bring a wizard? Why wouldn't you bring a wizard? I mean, you listen to the kind of language that this person uses, you know, oh, especially if you yourself didn't bring a wizard. I thought you played vampire counts. So wouldn't the wizard problem be solved? And this is just like where that disconnect happens, where it's like, are you even a gamer? Or are you just like a paid actor? You know, and that's kind of like that's when I make mentions of the Illuminati and everything. So, you know, I mean, if you ask this person right now, because they're such an expert on playing games and everything, the game is already dead on arrival. Again, it doesn't matter if the game is dead on arrival. They're going to make enough money for 2 quarters to justify its release. And that makes the shareholders happy. And that's kind of what having a business is all about. All right, that's enough of this one. All right, brings us to 2 more British people. At least I can downsize Akka. I mean, you can actually look upon these people. They won't turn you to stone. It won't turn you to stone, but you hear more of this just in the intro of this. You know, I mean, this is a very long video, but they go on for 2.5 hours. I'm shocked that there's really this much content and subject matter here. You know, and this guy's a fantasy player. He's an actual documented, yes, I've seen his stuff, it looks great, fantasy player. You know.
Low tar variants that you might get from some Games Workshop.
You're not Razorfist, dude.
You ain't getting it here. Anyway, because this is my video, I get to do the first moan. And my first moan is going to all be about the rules. Now, Warhammer Fantasy has been a long, complicated kind of game that has had many editions. These editions have had hundreds of pages of rules. They take a long time to learn. Are they going to simplify them? Are they going to make them all a bit bland and a bit vanilla? When Age of Sigmar dropped, about 200 pages of rules were reduced to 4 pages. And that really gave me the heebie-jeebies. But really what I think is that they're going to have to go one of two ways to make a game that they think should be super playable and in tournament settings. One, they make it very, very simplistic, so there could be no arguments about it. Or second, they produce very, very complicated rules with far more erratas than they ever did before. Or the third option, which I don't think.
I agree with him about the erratas part, and a more simplistic game. Well, that game already exists. It's called Kings of War. I used to play a lot of Kings of War. It's kind of what my channel got built on before I call it the Great Falling Out. It's just like, here we have all these people that want to play Kings of War, but they don't like they don't necessarily like the people who are making the content for it. Now, I will say that they did only like there was one channel. I can't even remember the name of Kyle's channel. It's been so long. But at the end of the day, the Kings of War community became the community that did not get behind their content creators enough, so they all just went away. They went the way of the dinosaur. You had my friend out in Tennessee, Randy the Axeman. He was making good Kings of War content, but I don't like the fact that he had a hunting channel on his YouTube page and everything like that. That's stupid. He shouldn't be doing that, and just little things, just little things that would set people off and turn people off about Kings of War. But literally, that's really what Kings of War represents to me, is that a group of people who didn't want to support the people who were trying to make content for it to get people excited about the game. Or you had backstabby type of people that didn't like the fact that I was the Mantic rep for the area that I lived in. And so they went behind my back to ban me from the store so that I wouldn't be giving the prize support, for the tournaments. It was kind of hilarious.
I think they'll do is to go back to a more gentlemanly orientated kind of game, where players are trusted to come to constructive disagreements.
The accent's slowly going away. The
and
voice is slowly going away.
rules.
Poor guy.
I don't think they're likely to go down that route, however. What do you think, Bard?
I agree with you. I agree they're not very likely to go down that route at all. Tournaments, and especially streamed tournaments, from what I've seen, have become rather important to Warhammer and certain portions of the fan base, perhaps. And I don't see too many of them myself, but for that sort of thing to function, you have to have some sort of level of clarity in the rules and ease of judgment for when there is a dispute. So you have to be able to make a call, and quick, because as you've certainly experienced, time can be a deadly factor in tournament play. But for the ordinary player at home, that can be an awful lodestone around your neck. Some of these rules that, for maybe players who don't know better and aren't that experienced, who don't know that they can change things to their benefit,
And now this is actually a pretty good one, and I recommend that if you got a little extra time, you can go ahead and watch this video. Not because I clearly can't do it in the scope of my entire show here, but what he just said was, okay, you've got this tournament scene here that's driving everything. And again, we don't know if this game is even going to be a big tournament game. And when it comes down to tournaments on tabletop, you have to be able to make a rules call very quickly, and that's kind of why the new 40K resembles a game like Yu-Gi-Oh! Oh, you've activated my trap card, and I have these special effects that are just going to happen now, so ho-hum on to you. I am Osmondius, look upon my works as I smote thy ruin upon the rock. Yeah, I can do that too. I'd have the cool voice. But that's another factor that Discourse never mentions. And then because Discourse is always doom and gloom, whereas these guys, they talk it out like a couple of gentlemen. I only got into about 45 minutes of this video, but that one part right there within the first 4 minutes was pretty much said it all. Let's see, does it take me to my next point? No, it doesn't. All right. Let it go for another couple minutes here, and then we'll get back to chat.
perhaps take the rules at face value and don't know that they can override it with their own imaginations and their own desires of what they want to get out of the game, maybe that can be a problem. It can be difficult for rules to serve two masters.
Yes,
So,
I think
that's what I
so.
think.
And after, I suppose, one of the masters walked out
back.
the
It's
door,
back.
which he did with Age of Sigmar, I suppose only the fans were left. And one of the quite agreeable things about that rather deserted island that there was, although there weren't many people left on it, was that then, because the master had gone, we had no choice but to become our own masters and make up our own rules, and thus we had the initiative. Will that happen anymore when the master is back in control, when dictator-like orders are being disseminated from the central tower? Maybe we will be in sad, grey subservience to what comes out from Games Workshop and not be able to think for ourselves.
Maybe, but only if you want that, and only if they can succeed in capturing you.
No, I do like the tone of this conversation that they're having. Admittedly, it's more refreshing. It's not doom and gloom. You can see the stark contrast between like the doom and gloom influencer discourse and then I think it's Baxel. Black's Ill. These are two people that have actually played the game. They've actually played several editions of the game. So the conversation around the game is actually more structured and it's less doom and gloom. And, it's like, okay, were you smart enough to make up your own house rules? A lot of people aren't smart enough to do that. Let's face it. You got people who, like, I'm not smart enough. I go cross-eyed after reading a rules book for like 3 minutes. If I read too many rules at once, I go cross-eyed, just like everybody else out there, And so let's get over to chat. Alec Luda, I hate that she is complaining about how they play the game. The broken turn system is the freaking game. You're absolutely right there. The broken turn system is the freaking game. And if they don't play the game, then they tell them not to play the game. That's really huge. Okay, so my opinion, Hussar General, on the shooting phase will literally be, it'll be pretty similar. It'll be pretty similar. I don't know if they're going to add a counter battery measure or anything like that, but most shooting phases in these style of war games, it's usually the quickest phase because, how many units of archers do you have? Well, even high elf shooting never took that long. Even dwarf shooting never took that long. Oh, I have my stone thrower, I have my 2 cannons, I have my organ gun, and then I have my quellers. That's 5 units. Unless it's an entire army that shoots you. I've never really ran into an extended shooting phase that isn't completely different from what you would see in Kings of War. The most streamlined shooting phase that I've seen in any war game is done by Hail Caesar. Oh, I have an archer's unit that fires 3 times. If I hit you and roll a 6, you become disordered or panicked or whatever. I can't remember because it's been a minute. I have to have the book in front of me. And that's what do you call it? That's probably the most streamlined shooting thing. And then you have the set numbers that Mantic puts out, like, oh, this unit of 10 guys has 8 shots. This unit of 20 guys has 12 shots. This unit of 30 guys I think would have, I think it's in the neighborhood of 24 shots, etc. It goes up exponent, and like a unit of chariots would have 16 shots. So I don't know what the shooting phase is going to entail unless they break down how the war machines are used. Now, if they do what Kings of War did, the war machines roll 2 dice, and if one of those dice hits you and it inflicts and then you put the template on there, I don't know. They haven't revealed it yet. And again, it's like you see how like discourse is always like, oh, I'm an expert already at these rules, and these could be drafts of the rules, not the final product. Mar the Has-Been, welcome to the stream. You new to the channel, or have you been a long-time lurker? It's always good to see some blood. Okay, they are better off. Good deals on boxes for the old world. No way am I paying $60 for like 20 something year old models. I don't blame you there. It might be more than that, you know. And again, like I said, this game isn't necessarily really for everyone. You know, I mean, I'll pay it. I don't care. I want the models. I want to paint the army. It's something that I want to do. I'm from that camp. You know, I mean, for them to go through and completely redo the line takes way too many resources that Games Workshop has on hand. Again, I'm already on the if I were on the board, we need to close 200 of our brick and mortar stores, because I guarantee half of those stores you're just paying rent every single month and a salary to a manager every single month because they don't perform. They're just money pits, you know, and you need to let the brick and mortars take over. You know, and if they had an outreach program where they could teach a brick and mortar store to be less lazy and actually support the game like their brick and mortars do, but even then you have a bunch of lazy that work in there. You have the awesome store managers and the crappy store managers. Which one are they, you know? You know, again, the $20 something, the $60, it's the prices have gone up across the board. And, you know, I mean, we're also going to be kind of entering a dark age of gaming, because I see ads on Instagram all the time for little brick and mortar stores that are closing, you know, and I'm blaming inflation for this, you know. I mean, things have gotten so expensive so fast, you know. I mean, it's like you get a bulk jar of mayonnaise at, I don't eat mayonnaise, but it's another Instagram reel of mayonnaise at Costco. It was $4.99. Now that same jar of mayonnaise today is $6.99. People have less money for bread and circuses, my friend. So I don't blame you for wanting to keep your dollars, you know. Throw it in a money market account. This isn't financial advice, but I'm just saying, you know, the people who don't want to invest in things. I mean, I woke up this week and alcohol stocks have taken a hit for some reason. People are drinking they're drinking Popov from a plastic bottle rather than buying designer brands, you know. So I mean, what do I know about stocks? Yeah, I represent that problem. Mr. Harrison, I don't have to buy back in unless I want to. Now, I want a Bretonnian army. That was my first. Those were my first 3 armies. Painted my Bretonnians, saw that they looked like shit, threw them out. Painted another army, got a little better, and was like, I'll try to sell some of these guys. The rest are getting thrown away. Third time's a charm. I think I did 4 renditions of the army before I arrived to the 5th one that I kept, and then even then I sold it because I got a stupid frickin' offer. My last Bretonnian army was really tiny. It was like 2,100 points, and somebody made me an offer of $2,300. I'm like, God damn it. Okay, I'll sell it. All right. And I shouldn't have. I never should have sold that army. I should have kept it. Would have made life yeah, I want to see the game. I from this perspective, you know, I want to see the game do good. And if the game sucks, I can always play 8th edition. And my friend said he'd do that with Wood Elves because if he has the same kind of passion for the Wood Elf range that I have for the Bretonnian range. He loves the Wood Elves. Yeah, it's same. Again, they need to make it good. Old players are going to buy. New players, you know, who cares if the new players are put off? Again, I've already gone on record saying that fantasy isn't the game that you start with. You know, it really isn't. You know, you should try to put together a box of soldiers, and then tell me if you want to be a war gamer. That's how you get kids. That's what you do to young kids. Be like, okay, here's a box of 30 soldiers. There are the instructions on how to assemble them. Here's all the tools you need. I'll come back in an hour and see how you're doing. And I guarantee Most of those kids are going to be over at that Xbox. Pretty much like if most of you all were to die tomorrow, most of your girlfriends are going to be watching Netflix, you know. Yeah, again, I saw that they mentioned. So I've done some investigating. You have the option to build female knights of the realm, which is horse shit, complete and total horse shit, you know. And yeah, they are trying to diminish male characters and everything. I mean, that is true. Nah, I know he's gonna get canceled here. Like I said, I'm trying to be on my best behavior, not pitching shade too much at discourse because I want this to get out. I want this to get out, you know. And I think that if you want the full version of what I'm trying to do here, watch Dr. Blacksil. I've never pronounced his name right. Blacksil's channel's video on this because, you know, those guys, they go into it for quite a ways, you know. I agree with you there, Hussar General. It's the eccentrics that are going to go into this game, and nobody mentions that. What's up? How are you doing, Weird? Oh, so Tyler Norwood, you watched Baxels? Yeah, like I said, I recommend it. I got nothing to say. I got nothing bad to say about Dr. Luke. I can't even pronounce his name. Hold on, let me. Balaxi. Somebody enunciate that for me in the Balaxil. Sorry, I apologize, Mr. Balaxil or Doctor. I just think his voice is funny because as the conversation progresses, he loses that voice, and it's just like I can't do my British accent the entire time. I lose energy. I get tired really quick, you know. And like I said, if you want the full version, you can watch this one. This gives you the full version, but again, it's another UK perspective. And then you got more guys from the UK, and this is the younger crowd. I would call these guys Zoomers, but they literally look like they're 20 going on 40. Well, the facial hair here isn't doing anything much for this poor gentleman here, and I don't know. I'm also not a fan of Blink 182, but that's where I'll leave it. I won't be so freaking heavy-handed here, and let's just get into this one here.
That people dropped off slowly towards the end times for Old World before it eventually became Age of Sigmar, and then they just went, nope, this is different. So maybe that's a little love letter to all of the old players to come back. Be like, we miss you, please come back.
It's definitely getting some buzz, I think, with a lot of the older players.
And I think because of all these new kits and the way they look and how great they are, I do feel like there's going to be a massive injection of new blood, whether it's temporary, don't know, but yeah, we'll see.
I think so. We can wrap this up with a couple of closing points. I think, me personally, I still need a reason to be going out buying these kits and putting them in my backlog, which is horrendous at this point.
That's it. I think, yeah, to engage that level of commitment, there needs to be a little bit more. It's still very early, but
I'm very fickle. If they do come out with some absolute banging Tomb King kits, then it's all bets are off.
It'll be one.
I agree with him on that one.
It's
if you like the model.
It'll be
it'll
be a mummy on a skeleton
beetle
dragon thing in the sand. I'm like, right, I'm in.
I'll be honest, if it's like anything like the old Tomb Kings, I think it'll be. I mean. And
so like, we just convinced ourselves in
our
own video.
I'll be honest, like I'm looking at the concept of some of the Tomb Kings things, and I'm like, what could you make that's sort of like a Gridley Thousand Sons army out of Tomb Kings bits? Because some of the old stuff you could do was phenomenal. So yeah,
I think
thinking on a 40k tangent, but yeah, that's it.
I don't need a third game.
Yeah, it's tough.
You don't need a third/4th game.
Fourth, yeah.
Because you're kind of getting back into heresy. So yeah, I think we both. To sum it up, I think we both need a reason to want to
Now, I kind of pulled these guys at random when I was doing some research this morning. Again, that took up a bulk of my time. And to me, these guys kind of represent the Jedi Order. These guys are the 40K players. You know, they've got their one army or they've got their project. Some of this stuff is painted. It's pretty well, you know, and they said it themselves. They don't necessarily need another project unless X happens, and then they're going to go and do Y. X always leads to Y, or A always leads to B and C, you know, so why, you know, I mean, there's really, you know, I mean, that they represent that part of the argument is, yeah, unless something comes out, I don't think I should buy into it, you know, and you don't, again, like that just reinforces what I've always said, you know, you don't have to do every single game. I don't do every single game. I don't play Infinity with my friends, at least not yet, and I don't play Age of Sigmar, but I did say earlier in the video that if they wanted me for something that they were trying to do that required greenskins and Age of Sigmar, I'd be there. You know, that's just what you do when you have friends, you know. And so they just kind of come at it without the doom and gloom of the UK, you know. And they just hold on here. Let me get to the finish here because like I said, I didn't have time to make a lot of notes, but
get more in.
Yeah, really keen to hear what your thoughts are as well. Like, please leave us a comment down below because I think it's such a weird time. Like, I don't think it's coming anytime soon either. I think it will probably be like either.
I think it's
just after Christmas.
Yeah,
maybe?
I think it might get a Christmas launch, special box, and then general release next year.
Yeah, I think whenever it does come around, I think it'll be really exciting nonetheless. But for the time being, still on the fence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until I get my.
There you go, and that's okay. It's okay to be on the fence, you know. That's, you know, I mean, gosh, how hard was that, you know, for some of these naysayers out there, you know? I mean, yeah, I can still be on the fence about this game, you know, but I'm not. I've already got the money. I'm sitting there. I'm just waiting, you know, because I want to paint Bretonnians. I think that would be a good series of videos of just me doing Knights of the Realm. And then this is in the American perspective, you know. And these guys were the ones that brought up Lord of the Rings SBG. I mean, it's probably the worst selling range that Games Workshop has. Something new comes out, people buy it, and they've got their Forge World thing. But again, this is one of their better written games. Now, me, I don't like the duel system. I still wish I could find a book to War of the Ring, and I wish they would re-release a newer version of War of the Ring because that's a card that they haven't played yet. And so that's where I'll kind of end it there with that. But we can give these guys a listen for a second, and you know, and I try to get it from all angles, you know, 2,000 subscribers plus, you know, and you know, these guys came into my feed when I was doing some Google searching on Friday.
And just because you might not see a lot of eBay activity doesn't mean they're not sitting in bins or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I think that's going to be the tricky thing. Now, the next question is, and I think maybe GW's already got this in the plan, but much like how we have Heresy Thursdays where Games Workshop does like a little new Heresy release or chat or article, like I think we need to fire up the Old World Tuesday or whatever day it's going to be and have like I need to now see like, okay, are we going to get like book and model or whatever we call it for like all the other factions?
Yeah.
You know, because again, back to last week, as far as we know, the entire game is just Bretonnians and maybe Tomb Kings. Like it's like I have not seen a single anything else.
Well, and moving into the Tomb King conversation, like obviously we haven't seen much from them other than a resin model or whatever. That's a more interesting range because like I feel like if they just did the like one new plastic infantry unit and one new plastic hero character thing for the Tomb Kings, that range would look really weird.
How so?
Well, in my opinion, like the chariots, the infantry, and the cavalry, like even though they came out in the 6th edition, they look kind of goofy, like compared to modern standards of what Games Workshop puts out for a skeleton.
Yeah.
So
they'll look a lot more at them.
Yeah, I think like the question I have for them is like are they gonna like completely revamp those, or are we just gonna see those again with like another new kit beside it, and then it's like, okay, well, this is what we're doing.
I don't know. Last week's evidence was
yeah.
Would be surprised, but yeah.
So And I think like I was surprised that they even made a new plastic anything, to be honest.
Yep.
So I think
that
like
was a good like
and
first.
I think like it's like my expectations throughout like the time span of this whole thing. It's like it started like middle,
right?
Went up like a tiny bit probably when they started doing some of the articles. Shot way down.
Yep.
When they sort of like FAQ'd their own expectations and started talking about, and then I'd say like they've been very low.
Yes.
And like I think the preview probably knocked them up a little bit. Because like, yeah, not a lot, yeah, like a little bit, like because like I said, I was probably thinking like, oh, they're like not really putting anything into this. It's just going to be like a repackaged game, like you said, like Lord of the Rings. But
well,
okay, so right about there where they talk about this has to be somewhat of a repackaged game. Yes, if you can't come in with existing collections, you are going to literally lose any chance you have of a release, a very successful release. I mean, you want those books to sell, and you damn sure want. And I think at release, when Games Workshop does come out with the official release, there will be shipments of the fantasy models themselves, the old Orc boys, the old Orc, the newer, they were brand new Orc Boar boys, not the Savage Orc ones, but the normal Orc Boar boys. All of that stuff will be available to buy. And so all they have to do is print it and then send it to you, or they have to put that stuff in the stores. And if they don't have that all ready to, and also a lot of the line has to be ready to go at launch, and that's where they're going to make their money from. So, and then not to mention bases, maybe shoes for bases, movement trays. I mean, I can see a couple of lance formation trays going for as high as $25 for the two of them. You know, and so you know, all of that has to be ready to go at launch. Yes, they can have a fancy box set. They said they weren't going to do a box set. They might only do battalions. And they're going to re-release some of the mods, and they've already talked about some of the stuff that's ready to go. You know, and when I think about like what is ready to go, and these are the more relevant armies. The relevant armies are High Elves. They got a lot of new armies. A lot of new army stuff before the end. Wood Elves. They were the last army to be released, or it might have been Dwarves, but I think Dwarves came before Wood Elves. Dwarves are ready to go. Empire are ready to go. Bretonnians are ready to go. Tomb Kings are ready to go. And then Chaos has to be ready to go. So there's already like 7 armies that have to be ready to go immediately upon launch. And then you have, you know, so then you have all the other factions. You can come back. You're going to be selling square bases, or you're going to be selling movement trays that have the circles cut out so that you can rank up and play immediately with some of your Age of Sigmar stuff, because people have been collecting. So it all depends on what accessories come out at the end of this here. That's how this sales is going to flush out. Like I said, they've already got my money, and these guys are kind of on the other side of the fence from their UK counterparts. It's a hard maybe, you know. The British are really good at saying absolutely nothing. They are literally, I think that's the reason why you see Discourse like having some of the popularity, if it's not botting, that the butt clapper has, is because they are really good at talking about nothing. Oh, I lost that. Who was that? Oh, sorry, Command Bunker. Yeah, I was addressing your comment. They have unlimited. We have unlimited time here in the Knightsbridge area. We don't work. Our weekends start so far in advance that jobs have been phased out by our minds. You know, so yeah, the third game, we don't have time for a third game, and there's a lot of games that I don't have time for. But again, you know, I'm going to make time to know 5 games. That's going to be like my New Year's resolution, so that I can play Necromunda, I can play Mordheim, I can play Conquest, I can play Old World, I can play 30K, and if there's any time after that, maybe I'll go back to a game of 40K here and there. You know, but this is why you collect, so you don't have to do a lot of things when stuff comes out, you know. And again, that was the big problem that I have with 40K, you know, 9th edition in the beginning, is because here I have this 8,000 point orc army and nothing I have is good for it. They've bashed bikers into oblivion. Bikers aren't good anymore, you know. And I was all for the speed freaks, you know. They've done, and then they came out with the buggies. I wasn't willing to buy the buggies, even though the buggies were really good. And then I went and I bought the orc buggies. Now the orc buggies aren't as good as they used to be. And it's that kind of shit that's kind of pushed our group away just a little bit. Not to mention, you know, like the biggest problem I had with the new 40K and even 9th edition a little bit is like when I was losing games, I was losing games not to a player, but to a set of special rules that just sort of happen, you know. And whereas like, playing 30K, it's like, oh, you just failed. My buddy failed 3 charges last week and there was no reroll. And if a Primarch failed a charge in, what do you call it? In 40K, not 30K, if he fails a charge in 40K, he's going to get a reroll, and he's almost absolutely guaranteed to get that charge, where it's more of a game that the dice are going to dictate a little bit. They're going to have their say about what happens. And that's very important in a war game. The dice have to have their say, but you have so many safety nets in the new 40K. I mean, how many nerfs did they have to do to Eldar? Where you had, I mean, they had tournaments where people were coming out and like, oh, my opponent's Eldar. Well, I I concede. I can't win. And so, you know, you had people auto conceding at tournaments to Eldar. You had Oath of Moment, which got nerfed in the Marine Codex, but it was so good. It's like, I absolutely get to delete your biggest tank on my turn. And if I don't get to delete your biggest tank, guess what? It is absolutely because I rolled nothing but 1s, because everything works on 2s and 3s with a reroll in 40K. That's one of the things for me that's hurt the game the most, is the safety netting. Okay, so I don't know who you're talking to. You must be talking in chat about Chaos not being as big. Oh, Beastmen are going to be big, and Chaos are going to be one of the big playable factions. I think they said that in one of the Almanac updates. That's just the Games Workshop motto. We make the best fantasy miniatures in the world at a profit. We intend to do this forever. Yes, that's right. That's why we exist. That's why we're in business. To make money. Ganar dinero. Okane ga hitsuyo desu, as the Japanese would say. Or, okay, Hussar General, the demons has. Don't know what you mean by that. You must be talking to someone else. All right. Oh, what's up, Christian? How you doing, buddy? Long time no talk. So they have I think 10 factions are going to be in focus. The rest are going to kind of be relegated to a secondary role. I know that the vampire counts aren't one of the main factions. I think I have the almanac up. Hold on. Go back. Main factions, sorry. We'll go into this real quick. We can clear this up. It's okay. The core factions that they're going to be focusing on is Empire, Dwarfs, Kingdoms of Bretonnia, Wood Elves, and High Elves. Those are your good guys. Your bad guys are the Orcs and Goblins, which, again, is always going to happen because, if I have to choose in the 40K universe or in the fantasy universe, if I have to choose the top 3 most popular armies, Orcs and Goblins are in the top 3. I'm sorry. I can't tell you what the other 2 might be. It's varied. But if I had to choose something for both systems that were in the top 3 of favorited armies out there, Greenskins are easily the number 3, if not the number 2. All right. A lot of people out there just you get your freak on with Greenskins. Warriors of Chaos, Beastmen, Bray Herds, and Tomb Kings. All right, so those are your core factions that they will be focusing on. So Vampire Counts, they're going to be down here with all the other armies. They're going to have published army supplements alongside the launch, according to this at least. What about the other factions? Dark Elves, Skaven, Vampire Counts, Demons of Chaos, Ogres, and Lizardmen. They're going to be there. They're going to be present. And these, these got to be these models right here. They got to be ready to ship at launch. So they got a lot of work to do. You can't believe the state of 40K, Christian. Neither can I. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's become a lot like Yu-Gi-Oh! Oh, you've activated my trap card and my set of Obama executive order rules that just sort of happen that you can do nothing about that allow me to win the game because of safety netting. And, like I said, and when I compared it to like 30K, all the games of 30K, I've had fun in. And, my friend even paid me. Now, my friend is like Anthony. He is the most critical person of me. He will always hold me to a standard. And for that, I'll always adore him. He says, I've actually noticed that you're way more competitive and aware of things in this game than you are in a normal. You just sort of show up to a 40K game. But in this game, you're kind of a different person, So I'm like night and day, like getting to play 30K is like getting to visit an old friend. What's up, Proxy Models? Nice to see you. Must be new. Yeah, you're absolutely right there. It'll be fun to show up to an FLGS and have something to engage with. If people have any of the means to buy in past the starter box, and that was a thing that kind of did hurt Horus Heresy that a lot of these people that I watched talked about. Oh, it died because you have the same starter box that I've got and our armies are exactly the same. Well, your armies wouldn't be exactly the same if you went over to ForgeWorld.com, But having something to talk about with like a newer, younger player, that would be good. And like my final point on some of this would be, it gives, okay, so what does the old world represent to me? A chance to create an army on par with my Macedonians. That's the big number one. Maybe a chance to meet someone who wants to throw down on games regardless. Oh, he just likes the game and he wants to throw down. I'm all for that. I haven't seen a player like that I haven't seen a younger player like that for a very long time. Somebody's like, oh, I've got one hop, like all the young bloods at the gym that I go to, the boxing gym, that is their jam. And I always give them the advice. I'm like, okay, then let boxing and kickboxing and jiu-jitsu, let being here be your only hobby. Now, the next thing that, and I told this one kid, I said, I always use him. I said he's a second-rate amateur, which is one step up from a third-rate amateur. And I said, if you really focus now while you're 16 years old, and this is what you've decided that you want to do. There is no guarantee, but this is what you've decided you want to do. You can always go and get your GED. Just pay the $100. It's $120 to get your GED, so you don't have to be burdened with high school. Go to work bagging groceries every single day for 5 hours a day, and then come here in the evenings. There you go. And you will be farther ahead than anyone else in your age bracket who's still going to school lollygagging. But if boxing is what you've really decided to do and you're really passionate about it, I have no doubt that you will work your way up to first-rate contender, maybe even Olympics. You know, and I even asked the coach, hey, couldn't he do an Olympics? He's like, there's a series of steps that you have to go through. But yes, this kid, he's in the bracket of, yes, he can compete at the Olympian level, but can he get through the steps? You know, and I'm like, all you have to do is win a bronze medal, do some speaking tours, you know, and then maybe you can do a couple of contender fights, make a couple $1 million, and you're done. As long as you're not stupid with your money, you know, you can always be a motivational speaker and seller of cornflakes at the end of the day. You know who else likes Man of War, Tyler, is DM James. He's talked that game up a few times. And you can always play an older edition. I said that when they killed Fantasy, and everybody gave me the middle finger for it. Like, how dare you talk about bringing up and playing the older games as they are? We have to stay with the current thing. All right, Warhammer 3rd Edition it is for you. You returned where it began. Again, I'm not old enough to it. I've never even seen a game of first, third, or second, first, second, or third. I've seen games of fourth and games of fifth. And for me, 5th Edition Fantasy was where the game started to look like, that's where it started to look like a game for me, you know. That is true. A game store does need you playing supported games, but again, I don't know how much longer some of these game stores are going to be in business as inflation starts to take hold, as people are coming home with less money after the government takes its cut to pay for its wars, because we're printing money to pay for wars that we can't afford. And Biden, he's spending like a drunken sailor. And if China makes the switch to gold and stops buying, and they've already stopped buying our debt. Japan has already stopped buying our debt, and they go into business with Russia on that BRICS currency. Well, I'd hate to have to tell some of the naysayers on Instagram about how that'll never happen. The BRICS countries, mostly China and Brazil, they're responsible for more GDP than the G7 countries are now, you know. So that would basically put us in a Weimar situation really relatively quickly, and a lot of small strip malls will go out of strip mall businesses will go out, and they'll go the way of the dinosaur. I agree with you there. The greenskins are the only good guys in either system. I have a feeling that the molds are still probably good. I know that a couple of their molds got destroyed in a fire, but I know that they do a lot of molding and making of miniatures in Tennessee as well. Britain isn't the only place that they make this stuff now, because it would be too expensive to continuously ship orders from Britain to Tennessee. And if you want to hit me up on Instagram, you know, I can give you the proper shout out if you're making odds and ends for your 3D printed business there, proxy models. All right, and then we go to the command bunker. I can't believe I already went for 2 hours. I feel like I've gone a little long-winded. How did I do? Did I hold back? Somebody in the did I hold back my punches? Did I get too out of hand or heavy-handed on on discourse? You know, just somebody tell me you did good, HT. You didn't like reach out and strangle like we all know I want to do. Yeah, they also, nobody ever mentions the hipster crowd either. That, I wish I could meet some guys like that, who's like, oh, we meet once a week to play a game. I'm not losing my edge. They meet once a week to play a game of old 6th edition or something. That'd just be interesting to watch. I don't even care if they let me play. I'd be like, I'm not doing nothing. I'll watch this game for a minute here. You did well. All right, thank you. I'm not losing my edge. Like I said, I want this one to get out just a little bit analytically, and I want it to be spread around. And so we're coming in here. We can talk amongst ourselves for another 2 or 3 minutes. I don't think I'll be turning on the camera for painting today. Maybe I'll do a paint stream Maybe I'll try a paint stream on Rumble next Saturday if I have the time and I'm not working. That's the problem with YouTube, is they're always like, no. Yeah, they're like a nun with a ruler. You're not allowed to do that, HD. I was too weak-handed on the troll. No, I was, again, on this particular one, I wasn't trying to troll anyone too hard, because again, I want this one to kind of get out, and again, like everything that I've addressed just in my notes and everything, and in my reactions to rewatching some of these videos, I kind of tried to get them to the point and remember what I was going to say, which probably isn't the best way to do things, but when you pull it up on the fly, that's basically all you get, You have no life after 5 p.m.? I thought everyone in the UK basically hung out at their local pub. Culturally, from what I understand, is everybody who might live in the city has like a tiny home, and they go to the pubs and they treat it like their living room. But I don't know if I think that's a cultural thing, but I'm not too informed on that subject matter. Well, yeah, I'd totally be down for an MMA fight. I just, but the funny thing is, I could badmouth this person, and this is like my luck. So let's say I badmouth Discourse, and she's just this like kind of butterface, but when it pulls off its shirt, it's got the body of Aka Atsuka, and it's like, wow, that's some hard luck right there. That's kind of my luck right there. Not saying it would. It probably doesn't. It probably looks worse than Mr. Burns on his best day. So there's that. I really don't have anything else for you guys. I appreciate everyone who showed up for this stream and everything, and I just wanted to give my thoughts in. Hope you enjoyed this one, and hope you share it on the socials, and we can get the message out about this one, and just kind of my thoughts and everything, I don't want to appear weak. You were too weak-handed on the troll. I'm losing my edge. Uh-oh. Anyway, we'll go to an outro. We'll shout the patrons out, and we'll say goodbye. Anyway, I'd like to thank John K., Andrew C., Lady Quickblood 35, Moonbad, Bobbis D., Craig B., Jimmy M., Dracwiza, James C., Macy J., Gypsy Thomas, James B., Wallach, Jason G., Michael W., Christian M., Cornite Care Bear, Linus Pius, Road Dog, King of Salt, Soul Blighter, Sage MC, and PP Bass Quali, Tippers After Dark Prince.net, CelticMiniatures.com. Please go to Celtic Miniatures, Instagram page. I will post a link in the comments a little later. But if you go to my page, you can find Celtic pretty easily. Just do Celtic Miniatures on Instagram, and if you have any questions, he should be able to handle it. Because last week the website was not up, and Randy the Axeman. Anyway, if you want to get in touch with me, you can always hit me up on Instagram. Instagram DMs are the best way to get in touch with me. I will always answer your comments in the comment section below. And if you want to help the channel grow, go over to my channel, Soy Free Warhammer on Rumble, and you can follow me over there. That will be the home of official battle reports. I will be editing new content shortly, and it will be going over on Rumble. So some of the first 30K battle reports will be going on Rumble. Of course, there will be an exclusive on Patreon to give some meat to my base there. And as you know, YouTube has many features you can use to interact with me. You can like the video, dislike the video, comment, or subscribe. But until I see you again, keep playing, keep painting, and stay metal, my friends. And we'll see you in the old world.